Me name's Nora Hale. I'm 22. And last night, my family cut me from Grandma Ruth's solstice dinner because the golden child needed all the seats. I stare at my phone until it locks. Wake it. Read again. This year it's just Savannah's branch. Hope you understand. I don't. The words sit like ice. Afternoon light slips across my Brooklyn apartment. Glass walls. Clean lines. A fig tree I somehow kept alive. Ferries move down the East River like quiet animals. Everything looks calm. Inside. I'm not. I type. Delete. Type. I choose one word. Enjoy. I set the phone on the quartz. I press my palms down until the tremble stops. For as long as I remember, Savannah has been our light. The golden child. She ran late and was busy. I showed up early and was too much. She set centerpieces. I was asked to make myself useful. The map of where love lived skipped my side of the street. 2 days ago. Eorta lean runners. Paper stars. And a brass fox napkin ring for Grandma. A clever woman is a fox in the snow. She once told me. Quiet feet. Bright eyes. Mustard detail. The fox. The phone rings. Travis. My cousin. You got the text, yeah. It's not just you. He says. They cut most of us. Keeping it intimate for Savannah's in-laws. Intimate means 23 people. A laugh slips out. It sounds cracked. Why, I ask? Though I know. Because she's the show. He says. She always is. This isn't one dinner. It's a pattern. I can chart it by date. Dollar. And sentence. The 3rd of June 2012. I got into Columbia Engineering. Deposit $600. Dad loans build character. 2 months later, $7. $800 for Savannah's art retreat. Mom's text, she needs inspiration. In the 14th of March 2016, I asked for a co-signer on a lease. Mom, your choices should stand on their own. Same week co-signed $22. 000. SUV for Savannah's fiancé. Dad, he'll be family. The 26th of October 2019, I paid $3. $200 for their roof. You're a lifesaver. 2 weeks later, Vineyard baby shower invoice, $4. Wu-bei. Worth every grape. I used to call it different. Note unequal. I should have known. I breathe. I make tea. It burns my mouth. Good. Pain I can place. Work gave me a life I built myself. I'm a structural designer. I save old bones, mills, bridges, schools. 3 years ago, I bought a crumbling textile mill in the Hudson Valley and turned it into a retreat center, Lark Mill. Brick. River light. A kitchen that hums. It holds what others drop. It is the opposite of how my family treated me. Grandma came once in a cobalt scarf. Pockets full of caramels. She stood in the hall and whispered, "You did this?" She handed me a Polaroid from 1998 me in a cardboard crown. Half out of frame. Savannah mid-twirl. Even then, I was edged out. Last week, Grandma called. "You'll be at Solstice. Wouldn't miss it." I said, "We need your cranberry citrus tart." She laughed. Savannah's husband hates cranberry. That's why I insist on it. My phone buzzes again. Mom, don't make this a thing. You know how sensitive Savannah is. Right now, Savannah posted a soft launch of her in-laws. Ivory sweaters. Twinkle lights. Caption, finally. Family. That gets us. A thought lands. If I can rebuild a mill, I can rebuild a holiday. I scroll to a contact. Chef Mateo, it's Nora from Lark Mill. Nora, what's up? Solstice supper at the mill. 4 days from now. 40 people. He laughs softly. Bold. I'm tired of being edited out. I say. Voice steadying. I want a table where no one is a second thought. Send me your non-negotiables. Citrus tart. Ruth's rye rolls. Something with quince. Quince long story. I'll tell you when we're plating. I text Travis Lark Mill. Saturday. Bring everyone who got cut. Serious, I send a photo. The mill at dusk. Windows gold. On it. He replies. Exclamation points. Many. I pull down the box labeled Solstice. Paper stars. Linen. The brass fox. It sits in my palm like a key. I pack. Boots. Black sweater. The Polaroid. The fox. I text Elena Park at the Langley Foundation about a community studio proposal. Her auto-reply says she'll review this week. The FDR drifts into the Taconic. City to river to trees. Snow starts as pins of light. A thread chat erupts rides. Board games. Projector. Nora's making a new tradition. Travis writes, bring an appetite. There will be singing. The Hudson appears. Dark and sure. Lark Mill rises like a promise. We forgot we deserved. The door sticks at the last inch. I shove. Inside. Stillness. Then string lights wake along the rafters. Okay. I say to the empty hall. Let's build a table that holds. I don't know yet. But this plan will uncover a promise made in my name and a debt I never knew I carried. Dawn. The mill breathes cold and clean. Rafters pop. River whispers against old stone. Hank arrives with a thermos. Boilers purring. North lot sanded. Extra blankets upstairs. He pats the wall. She's ready. We chalk the floor for tables. Tape goes down. 8 steps from the door to the first plank. 10 to the arch. 12 to the spot where sound warms and laughter carries. At 8. Mateo rolls in with crates. Clove and citrus trail him. Tell me the quince story. He says, Grandma hid a jar when I was 9. I say, she told me. Some sweetness is meant to be saved. Savannah cried. Grandma gave her honey instead. I learned the difference between being chosen and being loved. The day starts running. Travis secures 2 vans. Jules offers a ramp for Aunt Myra. The church sends folding chairs. The spreadsheet becomes a small city. At 10, our rental truck calls long tables stuck on an icy hill. We've got doors. Hank says. Sawhorses. Clamps. We sand old pine slabs. Lash them across sawhorses. And lay linen. They look intentional. Rustic on purpose. Change of plan. Mateo says from the kitchen. Fish vendor bailed. Roads. We pivot to short ribs and roasted squash. Double the rye rolls. Copy. I say. And reroute the oven schedule. The solve is my favorite part. By noon, Grandma Ruth arrives in cobalt. I press the brass fox into her palm. For you. She smiles. Clever. The fox disappears into her pocket like a talisman. Hank appears with a tin box, found behind a false panel. The lid is stamped with a lark on a shuttle. Inside brown ledger pages. Names. Hours. Bread. At the bottom of each page, no one eats alone under this roof. A thin note falls free. Grandpa Theo's hand. Lark. If you find this, it means you went looking. That's who you are. We promise that when the one who stands at the edge makes the table, we'll say it plain. You are the keeper we prayed for. When grown folks forget the measure of a child, the child learns to carry beams too heavy for her bones. Put them down. Let the house stand on more than you. Theo. Grandma squeezes my hand. He called you Lark the day you were born. We tuck the box back, kept not hidden. Afternoon hums. Rosemary tied to napkins. Paper stars float. The kids' corner banner reads Everyone Belongs in wobbly bubble letters. Travis arrives with Aunt Myra. 3 cousins. And a shy boy holding a stuffed turtle. It smells like December and good decisions. Mira says. The chat pings. Mom, your grandmother says you're doing a thing. This is unfair to Savannah. She's fragile. I'm feeding people who were left out. I reply. That's all. Dots. Don't make this about you. I'm making it about us. Savannah posts a venue pan. Real family. Real love. Real tradition. I let the cold pass through. At 4. Power flickers in the north wing. Hank dives into the crawl space and returns with cobwebs. Lose neutral, he says, grinning. Sweet-talked it. The shy boy and I light jars one by one. Small suns wake under the beams. Headlights rake the windows. A black SUV idles. Mr. Keen from Grandma's old street steps out, carrying a bag. Ruth said you might need these. Photo albums. A recipe box. A blue folder with my name on the tab. Inside a trust document, Hale Family Education Fund. Established 1993. Intended beneficiary Nora Ruth Hale. Upon matriculation, in an accredited engineering program. Disbursement amended in 2011. Beneficiary changed to Savannah Page Hale. Amount $36. 000 over 4 years. Emptied by 2013. The room tilts not with fear, but with clarity. I close the folder. I seat Grandma. We start on time. Rule under this roof. I say to the room. No one eats alone. Snow thickens. Light warms. The blue folder waits under the sideboard like a true thing I'm finally strong enough to carry. Plates land. Steam rises. The mill becomes a body. We seat Grandma first. Brass fox on a ribbon. She looks like she planned to be photographed by candlelight. Welcome. I say. If your name isn't on a card, tell me. I'll write it. No one eats alone. Mateo's platters move like comets. Short ribs glazed dark. Squash with burnished edges. A vegan stew that smells like campfire and thyme. Kids tear, rye rolls like treasure. Lights blink once. Twice. Out. No panit. Someone hums Shenandoah. Voices find the key. Jules and I walk the tables with matches. Jar by jar. Stars wake. The brick goes gold. The doors we turned into tables look like a choice. I read Theo's note. Plain. No flourish. When I reach, put them down. The room holds its breath. Then the generator coughs back to life. We keep the candles lit anyway. Travis leans in. I skimmed the blue folder. It's clear. How clear, she signed. Or new. After. I say. After. He echoes. We eat. We pass. We laugh. Phones buzz. The caption that catches fire is simple. No one eats alone. Someone posts a split photo, our hall glowing against Savannah's dark venue. Mom calls. I let it go. A text from the venue: power outage. Limited heat. Travis checks the roads. Ice on the ridge. Plow's not coming. There's a knock. Firm. Not frantic. My parents. Savannah and her husband. 2 in-laws. Red cheeks. Damp hair. The night edits everyone. Come in. I say. Out of the weather. We make space. Hank lashes 2 doors together. Mateo tilts a pot. It stretches. I slide a name card in front of Savannah. Savannah. My hand doesn't shake. No speeches. No folder. Not with soup in bowls. Justice has an order. We eat dessert cranberry citrus tart with candied peel like tiny suns. Grandma closes her eyes at the first bite. Savannah watches me carry plates. This is beautiful, she says. Quiet. I didn't know how to make it. Thank you, I say. A reporter knocks. The mill that fed a town when power failed. She says. Half apology. Half awe. Not tonight. I tell Hank. We feed people. The story can wait until the dishes are done. We make beds upstairs. The shy boy tucks the turtle under his chin. Mom asks, "Can we talk? In the morning?" I say, "With rules." I walk the hall once more. Candles are stubs. Forks lined like soldiers. The brass fox winks. Tomorrow. I'll open the blue folder at the table and set the lines. Not a show. A structure. Morning smells like coffee and rye. Frost flowers the windows. The river shines thin and silver. I set a cardboard sign. 1. No yelling. 2. No what about. 3. One at a time. 4. Tell it plain. We eat first. Full people hear better. I lay the ledger beside the blue folder. Old pledge. New proof. I read Hale Family Education Fund. Established July 18. 1993. Beneficiary Nora Ruth Hale. Amended May 14. 2011. Beneficiary changed to Savannah Page Hale. Total $36. 000 over 4 years. Emptied by September 2013. Grandma's face tightens. "You didn't tell me," she says to my mother. Mom tries an old angle. Nora had scholarships. She's self-sufficient. Savannah needed a leg up. Say it plain. Grandma prompt. Mom swallows. We favored Savannah. Dad, it was family money. Not a stranger's. Grandma, it wasn't yours to move. Theo wrote the purpose down, so pretty talk couldn't cheat a child. Savannah starts with denial. Stops. Corrects. I saw my name on one form. I didn't ask questions. I liked not asking. Clean cut. I'm not here to humiliate you. I say, I'm here for repair. Restore the original amount with interest. Seed the Theo Hale Fellowship at Lark Mill. Annual. Transparent. Your name's small if you insist. And a letter, public or private, admitting the transfer and the harm. No excuses. Dad, we don't have that in cash. Grandma, you have a house. Art. Pride. Savannah, I can start. Bonus coming. Whatever helps. Help build the fellowship. I tell her. Not to erase. To repair. You have 7 days. I tell my parents. If you choose silence, I won't drag you online. I'll protect Grandma from public mess. But I won't lie if asked why the fellowship exists. Mom whispers. This will ruin us. The truth ruins what shouldn't stand. Grandma says. It leaves the rest. We shovel paths. We call neighbors. We move weight. In my office under the stairs, I draft the agreement dates. Amount pu prime. Transfer details. Fellowship language. Letter. 1 page. Clear lines. I print it and lay it beside the ledger. They read. No one argues the words. They leave with 7 days. By dusk. Elena Park emails. If the fellowship formalizes by month end, Langley Foundation will match the first $25. Ling ling ling. I pin the fellowship draft to the bulletin board, by the town map, Theo Hale Fellowship. No one eats alone. Underneath, and no one builds alone. Either. A text from Savannah, a bank transfer of $5. Ling ling ling. Caption first brick. I breathe. The beam inside me holds. Tuesday, community studio night. The door sign reads all hands welcome. Paper. Paint. Old shirts for smocks. The room smells like tempera and hope. Savannah arrives early in a thrifted sweater and real boots. Tray of muffins like a flag. Brush station, you wash. You don't direct. I say. She nods. Kids pour in with the rain. Maya draws a bridge with 5 arches labeled with wishes. Leon paints lightning too neat and then messes it up on purpose. A preschooler tapes stars to his sleeves and calls himself the sky. A city inspector shows up on an anonymous complaint. We're under capacity. Sprinkler recert is Friday. He posts a yellow warning and mutters. Prove them wrong. We will. Mid-cleanup. A pipe screams. Second floor riser. North wall. Door floats. A copper elbow split by freeze and pressure. Local shut-off crawl space. Hank says, tight. I belly down with a flashlight between my teeth. Dirt breath. Cobwebs. Cold iron. I'm right here. Savannah says. Left nailhead. She's right. Wrench. Heave. Nothing. One more breath. The valve yields. Spray slows to drip. Back in the light. Someone cheers like it's a goal. Savannah grins. You have a spider web in your eyebrow. She says. And waits. I nod. She brushes it away with the back of her knuckle. My phone buzzes a law firm's goodwill gift of $10. 0 inches exchange for an NDA. I answer standing up. Terms unchanged. Full amount, plus interest. Acknowledgement. Fellowship by date stated. No confidentiality. Send it. Grandma's silence is not food. Thursday, Savannah returns with a shiny tool bag she knows is too new. Teach me. We sweat a new elbow. She forgets and touches paint. Ultramarine streak across her cheek makes her look like a river fighter. Elena Park emails Langley will match $25. 000 if we formalize by month end. I forward it to my parents. Sunlight grows things. The inspector returns. Walks the repaired line. Smiles. Pockets the yellow notice. You're good for Friday. He crouches to compliment a paper dragon. He taps his clipboard twice like a wireless wink. I don't need confirmation to recognize a pattern. We draft fellowship bylaws at the long table. Travis brings pizza and painter's tape. Because he never arrives with just one kind of help. Yule's files volunteer forms. Grandma dozes with the brass fox cool against her collarbone. A bangping Savannah sends seven. Ling ling ling. Caption for the beam. She doesn't look at me. I nod anyway. Brick by brick. At 1042 p.m. A knock. Dad on the step, with snow in his hair and a manila envelope under his coat. I didn't bring a lawyer. He says. I brought a pen. Plain. I say. Plain. He answers. Come in. I tell him. Put it on the table. We gather at the kitchen table. Witnesses. Flat wood. Good light. Dad slides out 3 things: a cashier's check, a typed letter, and a second check stapled to a pledge sheet. His hands shake. He lets them. The first is 36 plus interest. Prime. Compounded. He says. The second is 25 for the fellowship. We'll do it again next year. If you want names on the wall. I say. They go small. He nods. The letter. He reads it aloud. Clean. Direct. We redirected a fund our father established for Nora. We did it because we believed she would manage without it, and because we favored our other child's immediate wants. It was wrong. We restored the fund with interest. We will help endow the Theo Hale Fellowship at Lark Mill, so other young builders are not asked to carry beams alone. James and Lydia Hale. Silence like air after rain. Where's Mom in the car? He says. She needed a minute. Savannah goes to get her. Grandma signs first as witness. I like the sentence about beams. She says. Your father would. 2. Hank signs. Jules. Travis. I sign last. The pen smears the stem of my R. Imperfect. True. Savannah returns with Mom. No armor. Red eyes. She isn't hiding. She reads. Twice. Okay. She says. Mom looks at Grandma. Is this enough? It's a start. Grandma says. Starts are holy. Mom looks at me. I'm sorry. She says. And the words land heavy and real. We told ourselves we were prudent. We were cowards. I didn't want to watch you pass us. I called it independent and sent you alone. I won't do that again. Thank you. I say. Help us build. Quietly. Consistently. That's the apology that holds. What do I do? Jules hands her a towel. Wash mugs. We set next steps bank transfer. Langley match. Launch night with bread, and no big speeches. The reporter gets a short, clean statement, build the table. Tell it plain. Everyone belongs. No names yet. Not her job to carry our penance. Savannah opens a slim box. A telescope. Not new. Polished. A brass plate at the eyepiece. For the girl who wasn't in the frame. Find the whole sky. I sold the SUV. She says. I can't fix then. I can change now. I see you trying. I say. Keep going. We step outside. The storm splits. Orion wakes. Kids first at the scope. Then elders. Then Mom. I didn't know it looked like that. She whispers. It always did. I say. You just needed the lens. Next week we launch the Theo Hale Fellowship. Mateo bakes pans of cinnamon rolls that taste like crowds and mercy. The inspector brings his daughter to paint. Applications ask for stories. Not titles. Tell us about a thing you built when no one looked. A boy writes about zip-tying a fence so the dog stops running. A girl writes about teaching her grandmother to FaceTime. Maya draws the bridge again and labels the arches with verbs. Listen. Hold. Name. Repair. Share. We hang the plaque by the ledger. Small letters. Clear rules. Dad learns to sand and stops, pretending he knows what a loose neutral is. Mom starts a listening bench by the door. Say it plain. She nods more than she speaks. Savannah keeps showing up in paint-stained boots. Transfers another $3. 000, with a note rolls divided by brushes, divided by stars. We publish the letter by choice. Not pressure. Reactions come. Kind. Not kind. That's fine. The mill doesn't read comments. It holds. I copy Theo's line at the bottom of a new ledger page and add mine. No one eats alone under this roof. No one builds alone. Either. Put the beams down. We will carry them together. We celebrate the first deposit with soup and cheap bells. Kids paint a banner. Thank you, Theo, with a fox and a hard hat in the corner. Perfect. Night. The river moves. Black and shore. The brass fox is warm in my pocket. My phone buzzes. The reporter, final header, I type build the table. Tell it plain. Everyone belongs. Inside. The shy boy tells the turtle about the stars. Savannah wipes a spill without being asked. Dad stacks chairs with a rhythm that might one day be grace. Mom sits on the listening bench with a woman who needs to talk about a son who won't call. Jules has a clipboard. Hank whistles off key. Mateo lifts a tray. One more roll. Grandma closes her eyes and listens to a house that finally stands on more than one back. I touch the smear on my signature and feel oddly proud of that small human flaw. We're home. I say. And we are. Story 2. My family treated me like trash and garbage for years. The wedding of my sister's dreams. They called me useless and gave me crumbs till I got up to go. Humiliating me one final time. And the groom muttered. Boss. His eyes wide with dread. Suddenly. In front of everyone they knew who mattered. My mother and sister realized they had made the worst mistake of their life. I'm Elena Martinez. And I spent 28 years living in the shadow of perfection. Isabella. My sister. It was everything our family could have hoped for. She was gorgeous. Endearing. And endowed with the type of carefree elegance that won everyone around. I was simply Elena. The quiet one. And she was the golden kid. The one who could do no wrong. The letdown. Our differences were shown in sharp contrast as we were growing up on our expansive family home in California. I was assigned to the little room that overlooked the gardener's shed, while Isabella was given the master bedroom with a view of the beach. On her 16th birthday, she was given a brand new BMW. I received a bus pass that included a lesson about responsibility. Isabella did something amazing that eclipsed any accomplishment I was able to make. "Why are you unable to emulate your sister more?" became the refrain that my mother loved the most. The queen of passive-aggressive remarks and a socialite extraordinaire is Margaret Martinez. Never passed up the chance to point out my flaws. Richard, my father, was too preoccupied with growing his real estate business to pay much attention to either of his daughters. But when he did, he was only proud of Isabella. Throughout college, the trend persisted. Naturally, Isabella received full funding to attend a prominent private institution to study fashion design. I lived off of ramen noodles and perseverance while working 3 jobs to pay for my education at state school, where I studied computer science and business. It was referred to as Aunt following her dreams when Isabella left school in her junior year to pursue modeling. I proposed studying abroad for a semester, but I was informed it was a waste of money. However, I was hiding something. I was quietly creating something remarkable while my family saw me as the awkward daughter who never quite measured up. The failure. It began with a straightforward notion in my dorm room. What if freelancers and clients could be connected more effectively? What started off as a college assignment turned into something more significant. Something that would completely alter the situation. Frustration and need led to the creation of Talent Bridge. I had seen many brilliant individuals struggle to obtain employment, while companies scrambled to locate qualified independent contractors. The platforms that were in place were unjust to both parties, cumbersome, and costly. I knew I was capable. Isabella was sharing pictures from charity galas and fashion weeks on Instagram, while I was working 18-hour days coding, surviving on coffee, and being unwaveringly determined. My little flat served as mission control for what would grow to be one of the nation's fastest-growing digital enterprises. I gained all of the knowledge: marketing, finance, programming, and legal frameworks. Every investment rejection, restless night, and doubtful moment simply strengthened my resolve. The innovation occurred when a large company saved millions of dollars and weeks of hiring time by using Talent Bridge to identify developers for a crucial project. In Silicon Valley, word spread around like wildfire. After rejecting my emails, venture investors started phoning. Elena Martinez was suddenly requested for interviews by tech journals that had never heard of her. But I said nothing. Agonizingly silent. Every family get-together served as a reminder of my position within the family. You see, Isabella would entertain everyone with tales of her most recent picture session or the famous people she had met at a private gathering. Our parents were overjoyed when she just began dating Marcus Thompson, a nice-looking architect from a decent family. He was the ideal son-in-law for them. Charming, successful, and from a good background. In the meanwhile, I would just respond that I was doing some IT consulting when people inquired what I was doing for a living. Although that wasn't the complete truth. It wasn't quite a lie. The full reality was that I controlled 70% of Talent Bridge, which was worth at over $200 million. In all honesty, Marcus Thompson reported directly to me via our platform, and his architectural company was one of our largest customers. Marcus didn't know. I was simply Isabella's clumsy little computer-handling sister to him. Over the course of 2 years of family get-togethers, we had perhaps said 50 words in total. He was usually courteous yet aloof. Naturally, his gaze was drawn to my glowing sister. During Christmas dinner, the engagement was announced. Isabella, of course, had planned the whole thing like a Broadway show, replete with champagne, a photographer, and our mother's happy tears. The wedding preparations started right away after Marcus proposed with a ring that most likely cost more than most people's automobiles. As we sat in the family room, Isabella exclaimed, browsing through Pinterest boards on her phone, "It's going to be the event of the season. A 10-piece orchestra, the country club, and 300 guests. Marcus is familiar with all the important people in the city." I gave a suitable nod and smiled, providing assistance where I could. Naturally, my offerings were graciously turned down. Isabella had already selected her bridesmaids. 6 of her closest friends, her best friend from modeling, her maid of honor, and even our cousin's kid, the flower girl. I was welcome to sit with the family, but I didn't really have a position in the wedding party. Dress fittings, of course, took up the months before the wedding. Venue visits were excluded from my participation. I was not invited, and there were frequent updates regarding things I didn't have any say in. While I watched from the sidelines, Isabella's world was growing into something amazing. Talent Bridge was booming at the moment. The firm was valued at over $400 million when we just finished a Series B fundraising round. I was creating a team of more than 300 people, presenting at conferences, and appearing on magazine covers. However, I continued to sit at the children's table at family meals. The irony. Metaphorically, I did not escape my notice. One of the success stories on our platform was Marcus's company, Thompson and Associates. Through Talent Bridge, they were able to hire more than 60 independent architects, designers, and project managers, which allowed them to grow their firm by 300% in only 18 months. In trade journals, Marcus himself had hailed the platform as groundbreaking and the way of the future for professional networking. He was praising his future sister-in-law without realizing it. Like everything else in her life, Isabella's wedding morning was flawless and radiant. The country club was turned into a scene from a fairy tale, complete with crystal and white flowers, in sharp contrast to the luxury dresses that would eventually fill the venue. I came early wearing a basic blue dress that I purchased off the rack. There wasn't much room in the bridal suite, so I was expected to get ready with the wedding party as family. I ended up doing my own hair and makeup in a little side room while listening to the champagne toasts and laughing coming from the room next door. Around midday, my mother called out to Elena to assist with setting up the seats. There have been some last-minute adjustments. A masterwork of social hierarchy. The seating arrangement placed me at table 12, far from the family table, sandwiched between some distant cousins I'd met twice, and my great aunt, who couldn't hear very well. Isabella's influential pals, meanwhile, were occupying prime space next to the head table. I pointed to my name in the chart's far corner and stated, "I think there might be a mistake." Quite cautiously, my mother barely looked up from her clipboard. "No mistake. We needed room for Marcus's important business associates at the family table." You understand, I understood what was happening. I got it exactly. The ceremony was lovely in its own right. I had to agree that Marcus was very thrilled. And Isabella looked stunning in her handmade gown. From my assigned seat in the rear rows, I observed as they exchanged vows, pledging to love and support one another, no matter what life threw at them. There was a real flutter of joy for them in the part of me that still hoped for my family's approval. However, that sensation was fleeting. When the dinner service started, the reception was already in full flow, beginning at the head table and moving up the social order. Table after table was summoned to the lavish buffet. The significant business associates came in third, followed by the family table. Last to be called was table 12. The exquisite array had been quite extensively picked over by the time I arrived to the buffet. Most of the neatly arranged fish were vanished, leaving just strewn leftovers. The famous pasta dish was almost finished, and there weren't many roasted veggies. I grabbed what I could and piled the scraps on my plate as honorably as I could. I passed the head table, where my family was eating well, cooked food and laughing at a tale Isabella was sharing, while I made my way back to my table, balancing my plate of leftovers. My mother's voice, "Elena," interrupted the laughing and brought me to a halt. People turned to stare, and the chatter at the tables adjacent slowed. "You found something to eat." "I see." She spoke in a casual, conversational tone, but I recognized it. She utilized it just before delivering a punch that was precisely directed. I just said, "Yes," not believing I could say anything more. "Well?" she said, her grin as piercing as a diamond. The words, "I suppose a useless child deserves leftovers," struck like a punch to the body. Conversation stopped completely around us. A few folks gave a quiet gasp. Isabella flashed that little, arrogant smile I'd known all my life after seeming briefly uneasy. Pathetic, she said, barely audible over the nearby tables. I had put up with remarks like these for 28 years. 28 years of being minimized, disregarded, and treated with contempt. After 28 years of accepting it, smiling, and being the larger person, I hoped that one day I would be sufficient for their affection. However, something inside of me finally cracked as I sat there with a plate of real scraps, while 300 people looked at me with a combination of sympathy and secondhand shame. Silently, like the last thread supporting a picture frame, eventually falling away. But not in a spectacular, exploding fashion. I grinned. The same grin I had maintained for decades of shame. I delicately placed my napkin on the table and slowly got to my feet. You know what, I replied softly, my voice echoing through the unexpected hush. You're entirely correct. I then turned to go. I had probably taken 10 steps in the direction of the exit when I heard Marcus's voice behind me. Sharp with astonishment and a sound like terror. What are you doing here? Boss. The word lingered in the atmosphere like an unexploded bomb. I paused, keeping my back to the head table, and briefly closed my eyes. The whole gathering had descended into a deafening, eerie hush as I opened them and turned around. Marcus's expression was a combination of recognition and growing dread as he stared at me. His champagne glass was frozen halfway to his lips, and he had gone absolutely white. Isabella's boss was hardly audible above a whisper. The 300 visitors seemed to lean forward as a group, feeling drama, but not yet realizing its scope. What did you just call my sister, after undergoing many color changes? My mother's face finally settled on a horrible gray-green. For the first time in years, my father was fully focused on me. I gave Marcus a serious look. He was going to be my brother-in-law. I had been seeing my sister for 2 years, and had never bothered to find out what I did for a job. Calmly. Hello, Marcus, I said. He stumbled. I think we need to talk. You're M. Martinez? Using my professional initials. You're the founder of Talent Bridge. I am. But you're Isabella's sister. You work with computers. I do work with computers. Among other duties. Beginning at the tables next to us. The murmur spread like a wave. People were taking out their phones and probably searching for my name on Google. The murmurs started in a matter of seconds. Isabella was looking at me as if I were a stranger. Yet she was on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. Talent is the firm that was just valued at. Didn't she just speak at that tech conference in San Francisco? What's going on? Elena. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as I made my way back toward the head table. And each step felt unreal, as if I were walking through someone else's life. When I finally got to Marcus, he actually stood up. A gesture so natural that it was obviously a professional habit. Ms. Martinez, he said formally, and the use of my last name, caused the audience to erupt in further horror. I had no idea. I never realized that your fiancé's sister was your biggest client. I completed for him. Yes. I realized that the following 10 minutes could have been the most bizarre of my life. There were 300 individuals around me as I stood there in my plain blue dress. As part of the wedding etiquette, I was forced to explain the business tie that Marcus, Isabella, and the rest of my family had never bothered to find out about. Speaking to the audience as much as my family, I said that Talent Bridge has been collaborating with Thompson and Associates for 18 months. Marcus, you individually found 63 freelancers via our platform, including the Riverside Complex project's whole design team. Marcus, who still seemed to have seen a ghost, nodded silently. Actually, I kept taking out my phone. Here is the email you sent me on Tuesday. You expressed gratitude to our platform for assisting you in obtaining the contract for the Morrison Hotel. You said that our service is crucial to the success of your business. Isabella was holding her champagne glass so firmly that I was afraid it could break when I gazed up at her. Over the last year and a half, your fiancé's architectural business has given my company more than $400. 0 inches fees. At least 60% of the expansion of his company has been directly attributable to us. The quiet was overwhelming. The phone of someone buzzed. A spoon clattered like thunder as a server dropped it someplace in the back of the room. My mother was the first to find her voice, although it was nothing more than a croak. Elena. Is this a prank of any sort? It almost made me giggle. She believed this was a joke after 28 years. It's not a joke. Mom. At the moment, Talent Bridge is worth $437 million. 70% of stuff is mine. I employ 312 people in 6 different offices. I received an invitation to talk on the future of employment at the World Economic Forum last month. I stopped and stared at the sea of faces that were gazing back at me. However, it seems that the fact that I arrived to the buffet table last counts more than any of it. The result was the most sophisticated kind of anarchy. The kind of mayhem that occurs when affluent individuals discover they have committed a grave social blunder in front of onlookers. My mother went into damage control mode right away. She was attempting to smooth over social catastrophes when she used to speak in that cheerful, artificial tone. Naturally, we were aware that Elena's little computer firm was succeeding. Her voice was shrill and urgent as she laughed. Both of our girls make us very proud. Come sit with the family. Elena. My love. We can create space. However, that was too late. It's far too late. Marcus continued to stare at me as if I may vanish if he blinked. Ms. Martinez. I must apologize. Elena. What would I have known if I had known that you were quietly? I asked. What if you had known? Would you have treated me differently if I had been successful and significant? He parted his lips. Then shut them again. The answer was obvious to both of us. Isabella's voice was shrill with stress, and maybe shame, when she finally figured out what to say. Why didn't you tell us? Elena, why didn't you speak up? The inquiry was very appropriate and revealed every issue with my family's dynamics. I gave her a serious look when she was wearing her ideal wedding gown, hairstyle, and surroundings. When I said simply, when would I have told you? During the family dinners where you talked for hours about your modeling shoots while everyone listened with rapt attention. During the holidays where every conversation was about your achievements, your boyfriend, your plans. When exactly was I supposed to interrupt the Isabella show to mention my little computer business? The truth was floating around, like smoke around all of us. In real time, 300 guests saw the Martinez family's collapse. It's unfair, Isabella said. But there was no conviction in her voice. Is it not? Now I turned to speak to the whole family. For decades, my parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles have seen this dynamic in action. How recently have any of you inquired about my work, really inquired? Rather than just asking how things are doing, and then abruptly shifting the topic. Quiet. How recently have you inquired about my life? Aspirations. And objectives. When was the last time I felt important to any of you? More quiet. After being unusually silent throughout this whole ordeal, my father eventually opened his mouth. Despite the tight control of his voice, I could hear the calculating in it. We didn't know you were. Elena. We were unaware of how successful you were. Maybe we should talk about this in private. Naturally, they wanted to talk about it in private now that they realized how valuable I was. They now wanted to control the circumstance. But I had had enough of being controlled. I knew I had to make a decision as I stood in the middle of that reception hall. Surrounded by flowers and crystal, and the rubble of my family's preconceptions. I had decided to remain for 28 years. I had decided to stick with it. I had made the decision to hold out hope that I might one day be sufficient for them. However, I had changed from the person who had entered with a plate of leftovers. That individual had vanished, to be replaced by someone who at last recognized her own value. The saddest part, do you know I spoke? My words resonating loudly in the quiet room. I've worked my whole life to gain your respect and affection. I believed that you would eventually see me if I worked hard enough, accomplished enough, and succeeded enough. I took a look at each one in turn. My mother's nasty remarks and social rising. The selective attention of my father. Isabella and her careless brutality. In actuality, however, you never saw me. You saw what you anticipated. The worthless kid. The disappointment. The failure. And you're still not proud of me, despite knowing everything I've achieved. You're just ashamed that you made a mistake in front of everyone. I raised a hand as my mother began to object. Don't. Please refrain from spreading falsehoods to make things worse. Marcus was still standing there looking shell-shocked as I turned around to face him. Marcus. Congrats on your marriage. I hope Isabella and you have a very good relationship. For your information, one of our most esteemed clientele has been Thompson and Associates. Going future. I'll ensure that the transition team manages your account directly. Team for transition. Every week. He inquired. I will no longer be your main point of contact. You comprehend conflict of interest. No one attempted to stop me as I resumed my stroll toward the exit. However, Isabella's voice, which was smaller and more fragile than I had ever heard, came to me as I approached the edge of the dance floor. Hold on. Elena. I halted. But I didn't look back. She said, I'm sorry. And for the first time, it seemed sincere. I really apologize. I briefly closed my eyes as I felt the burden of all those years. All those little slights. And all of those careless rejections. A part of me wished I could go back and accept the apologies so I could try again. However, I was worn out. I'm so over being the one that understands, forgives, and makes excuses for their actions. Without looking back, I responded, I know you are. But, Isabella. Regretting doesn't erase 28 years. I apologize. But it doesn't change how you all really feel about me. I left my sister's idyllic wedding and began living my life after that. As I went outside the country club, the cold evening air felt good on my face. Luxury automobiles were crammed into the parking lot, and valets were running around to handle the excess traffic from the event. For a while, I remained there, taking deep breaths and trying to comprehend what had just transpired. Are you Elena Martinez? Please. A guy was coming from the valet stand as I turned around. He wore a blue suit that looked costly, but not ostentatious. And he had black hair and gentle eyes. I couldn't pinpoint it. But there was something familiar about him. Yes, I said warily. I wasn't sure I was prepared for another confrontation after what had just transpired inside. He smiled warmly and held out his hand, saying, My name is David Chen. I attended the reception inside. Although I was meant to be the groom's buddy, I'm not sure how I feel about it in light of what I just saw. While still unable to place him, I shook his hand. Are we acquainted? We have been emailing each other quite a bit. Actually, a little. Chen Digital Marketing is what I manage. For the last 8 months or thereabouts, we have been utilizing Talent Bridge. It dawned on him. Chen David. In our several emails, we discussed his company's growth and their need for social media experts and graphic designers. He had been one of our most eager customers. Naturally, I apologize for not recognizing you. I forced a little grin. However, I must admit that this isn't exactly how I had hoped to meet you in person. No. I doubt it. He had a solemn look. Now, I must admit that what I just seen inside was utterly disgusting. How you were treated by your family. You are not required to. No? I really must. He interjected softly. For more than a year, I have been keeping up with your work. The way small companies locate talent has been transformed by Talent Bridge. The idea that your own family was unable to appreciate what you had accomplished is astounding. On my behalf, he shook his head in real anger. Marcus, how do you know him? In spite of everything, I inquired out of curiosity. Roommates in college, he grimaced as he said. However, to be honest, I have a lot of doubts about him after tonight. After all, how can you date someone for 2 years and be unaware of their sister's occupation? How can a professional usage of a service go unnoticed while the creator is present at family dinners? I had been asking myself that question for months. And it was a good one. May I ask you a question? I thought about the question Isabella had posed inside. And David went on. Why didn't you ever say anything, I mean? You could have mentioned it at any point. Would you think I was telling the truth? Tried? I made an effort to let them know about my accomplishments. But not explicitly. Their eyes would glaze away if I brought up work. The talent bridge. Or the things we were doing. They would start chatting about Isabella's most recent picture session. Or they would shift the topic, or say something about my tinkering with computers. Despite the turmoil, I turned to face the country club, where the reception was clearly still going on. I eventually gave up trying. Letting people think what they wanted to think became simpler. Furthermore, I must admit that I was curious to see how long it would take them to figure it out on their own. How long would it take them to inquire about my life in any meaningful way? What was the duration? 2 years. And it was only by chance that they discovered it. For a time, David remained silent as he processed this. How lonely it must have been. The straightforward remark made with such sincere compassion almost made me lose it. He had pinpointed the essence of what others would have said about what had just transpired. It had been terribly, heartbreakingly lonely, I said, my voice just above a whisper. That it was. Listen, David finally said. It had been the most emotionally taxing day of my life. And the wise course of action would have been to go home, order takeout, and try to process everything that had happened. I nearly said no. But I'm supposed to be staying at a hotel in about 10 minutes. There's a nice bar in the lobby. Very quiet. Would you like to get a drink and decompress from all this? The hotel bar was everything he had promised, quiet, dimly lit, with comfortable leather chairs and a bartender who seemed to understand the value of discretion. However, after noticing the genuine concern in David's eyes, I realized that I didn't want to be alone tonight. In fact, I said, that sounds perfect. David ordered a scotch and I a wine, and we picked a corner seat away from the few other customers. Once our drinks arrived, I have to admit, I'm curious about something, he added. Talent Bridge has achieved remarkable achievement. Hundreds of millions of dollars are yours. You attended that wedding. But why? Why put up with such type of behavior? I had been asking myself that reasonable question for months before Isabella's wedding. I took a sip of wine and thought about how to explain something. I wasn't sure I understood myself. Family is complicated. I finally said, no matter how successful you become, no matter how much you achieve, there's still this part of you that wants the people who raised you to be proud of you, to love you, even when they treat you like garbage. Especially then, they never saw your accomplishments. And the crazy thing is that I made it easy for them not to see by using my initials professionally instead of my name on press releases. I kept thinking that if I just accomplished enough, if I just proved myself enough, they would see me differently, and one day I would wake up and be the daughter they wanted, instead of the disappointment I'd always been. David leaned forward, his expression intense. I kept a low profile. Part of it was strategic. I didn't want the attention. But part of it was, I don't know, shame. Maybe shame about wanting their approval so badly, and about still caring what they thought, when it was clear they didn't care about me. The day weighed heavily on us as we sat in comfortable quiet for a time before David spoke once again. Can I tell you something? He said. I've been running my company for 5 years now, and I've worked with hundreds of platforms and service providers. But Talent Bridge is different. What do you mean? You built something that empowers people. Freelancers who were having trouble finding work. Small businesses that couldn't afford big recruitment agencies. And you created opportunities for people who were overlooked by traditional systems. It's not just about the technology, though that's impressive enough. He paused, looking at my face. I had never connected the dots before, but he was spot on every feature we'd built into Talent Bridge. Every policy we'd put in place. Every decision we'd made had been influenced by my own experiences of being undervalued and ignored. Perhaps that's because you understood what it was like to be ignored. I confessed that I had never considered it that way. We talked until almost midnight, covering everything from business philosophy to family dynamics to the odd turns life can take. Perhaps you should. Because what happened tonight wasn't about you being inadequate, but rather about them being too narrow-minded to see greatness when it was right in front of them. I have to ask, I said as we finished our second round of drinks. How did you end up friends with Marcus? You seem different. David laughed. David was easy to talk to and had the kind of sharp intelligence that I had learned to appreciate in the business world, but had never expected to find in someone connected to my family's social circle. I must admit that watching him tonight made me realize how different our paths have been. What do you mean Marcus is a good architect? You know the self-deprecating sound. College roommate situation. You know how it is. You get thrown together as 8-year-olds and somehow maintain the connection, even when you grow in different directions. I'll give him that. But he's always been interested in status, appearances, and fitting in. Tonight, when he realized you were successful, he panicked and went straight into damage control mode. It was pretty obvious that he was protecting Isabella. But even as I said that, I wasn't sure if I thought he was protecting himself or Isabella. After all, he's been using your platform to build his business for more than a year, and success is directly tied to your company. He never bothered to find out that the founder would be his sister-in-law. What does it say about him personally? It was a harsh, but true, evaluation. Marcus had been content to use Talent Bridge services, dismissing its creator as a pointless afterthought during family get-togethers. You know what the truly bizarre thing is? I really liked him, I continued, swirling the wine in my glass. Before tonight, I believed that he was good for Isabella because he seemed to genuinely care about her, and she was happy. However, caring about someone does not justify willful ignorance about their family. And it certainly does not justify watching your future mother-in-law humiliate your future sister-in-law in front of 300 people. I think I said slowly, I've been making excuses for all of them for a very long time. Marcus hadn't only failed to acknowledge my professional success, but he hadn't stood up for me as a person. I was going to be family even if he had assumed I was just Isabella's computer-savvy sister. The way I'd been treated tonight should have bothered him on a basic human level. It's actually one of the things that comes through in your business philosophy. Talent Bridge succeeds because it assumes the best in people. Freelancers genuinely want to deliver good work. And most businesses want to treat people fairly. Probably because you're a fundamentally decent person who assumes others are too, David said with a faint smile. As he walked me to my car, a modest sedan that probably cost less than one pair of Isabella's shoes, my phone buzzed. Isabella's name lit up the screen. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but David caught my hesitation. Answer it, he urged quietly. Because sometimes, that assumption you make about people being decent, sometimes it's wrong. But that doesn't mean you should stop making it. The reception is pretty much over. Half the guests have left after you did. Mom is locked in the bathroom crying. Dad is angry. And Marcus, she trailed off. I took the call and put it on speaker. Isabella's voice was small and shaky. Elena, please don't hang up. I'm here. God, I don't even know where to begin. What about Marcus? He has been pacing around asking people if they are aware of Talent Bridge and your success. He keeps saying that he feels foolish because he should have known. I said plainly. He should have known. You all should have. You're right. You're absolutely right. I detest that. But I had heard Isabella cry before, and she was very good at it. Very convincing. The question was whether this time was different. Isabella. No. Please let me finish. I need to say this. She took a shaky breath. I was jealous of you. That stopped me short. I hate that it took me tonight to realize how terrible we've treated you. I could hear the genuine emotion in her voice. I guess I resented that because I've spent my entire life trying to be what other people wanted me to be. David was watching me closely. And I could see the skepticism in his eyes. You were always so intelligent, so focused. And even when we were kids, you had this inner strength. I know this doesn't excuse anything, but something in Isabella's voice made me listen. When you started talking about your work, technology, and business, I didn't understand it and felt foolish. So I just brushed it off and made it seem less important than what I was doing. My parents agreed because my stuff was simpler to understand and easier to boast about to their friends. After a lengthy silence, Isabella said, "Are you ever going to forgive us? I know that saying I'm sorry isn't enough. But I need you to know that I see it now. I see what we did to you. And I'm ashamed of myself. The damage was too recent and too profound. And the pattern of contempt and disregard had continued for too long. It was the question I had been dreading because I had no response." I answered, "I don't know. And to be honest, I truly don't know." David and I remained in the parking lot for a while, analyzing the call after I hung up with Isabella. "What are you thinking?" he said. "I believe this is the most honest talk I've ever had with my sister. But I also worry it could be too little." Too late. My phone rang nonstop for the next few days. Isabella called twice more. My parents called multiple times. And even Marcus called to apologize and ask if there was anything he could do to make things right. But at least now she sees it. That's something. But is it really worth it? Is recognition without change worth anything? That was a question that would haunt me for weeks to come. Meanwhile, the wedding incident had caught the attention of the business world, and someone had shared it on social media. As this story slowly fades into the back of your mind, disappearing into the quiet places where mystery and memory meet, it realized that it was never just a story, it was an awakening. Stories breathe here in this liminal space, where every word is a shard of broken reality. Every sentence is a bridge between worlds seen and unseen, between the light of revelation and the dark abyss of what remains unsaid. It is a raw pulse of human truth, wrapped in whispered secrets and veiled emotions. The power of these stories, these digital confessions whispered into the void, where anonymity becomes the mask for truth, and every viewer becomes the keeper of secrets too heavy to carry alone, lies in their most powerful magic, stirring the deepest chambers of your soul, provoking the buried desires, the unspoken fears, and the fragile hopes that cling to your heart like fragile embers. So hold on to this feeling, this electric thread of wonder and unease. And now that secret, that trembling echo of someone else's reality, becomes part of your own shadowed narrative, intertwining with your thoughts, awakening that undeniable curiosity, the insatiable hunger to know what lies beyond. What mysteries hover just out of reach, waiting for you to uncover them? What stories have not yet been told before you leave this world? Keep in mind that every story you come across here is a whispered invitation to look deeper, to listen harder, to embrace the darkness and the light alike. Because it is what binds us all together across the vast unseen web of human experience. If your heart is racing and your thoughts are focused on the what-ifs and the may, you know that the story has done its job. We don't just tell stories here, we summon them. If the story haunted you, like this video, subscribe to join the fellowship of seekers who pursue the unseen truths, and ring the bell to be the first to greet the next confession, the next shadow, or the next revelation waiting to rise from the depths. And if you found yourself lost, or even slightly changed, then honor this connection by keeping the flame alive. Until the next story finds you in the quiet hours, keep your senses keen, your heart open, and never stop chasing the whispers in the silence. Thank you for watching. Take care. Good luck. We become vessels for the forgotten, the hidden, and the unspoken. And you, dear listener, have become part of this sacred ritual. Each day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create new stories that connect us all. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. Perhaps after listening to today's story, you have some new questions or memories that you would like to revisit. If you like this story, Please share it with your friends. Your comments and suggestions are always appreciated, as they inspire us to produce even better material. These types of moments serve as a reminder that we are all human. Sometimes joyful, sometimes sad, and constantly learning something new. Stories like these help us realize that everyone's journey in life is different. And by hearing other people's stories, we learn something new. You can share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well. Each story has its own unique angle. And our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. And if you liked this video, please leave a comment. We want to make sure that every time you watch this video, it makes you think and gives you new ideas. Even if you have already watched this video, your comments are still valued because we use them to make improvements and give our viewers a fresh viewpoint. We all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with one another. And this video was just one example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. What we saw today was only a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and around the world. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more incredible content. Your support keeps us going, and we will work to bring you more heartwarming and thought-provoking stories. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. We hope to continue sharing stories like these that help us all learn and grow together. Be careful, and continue to be intrigued till the next time. Asterisk.